Part 1. There's a quiet truth that many people spend years searching for without ever fully recognizing it. Happiness is not something that arrives from the outside. It is not hidden inside a larger bank account, a perfect relationship, a prestigious career, or the approval of strangers. These things can certainly bring moments of pleasure and satisfaction, but they are fragile. They can change, disappear, or disappoint us at any time. Many people spend their lives chasing happiness as if it were a destination somewhere in the future. They tell themselves that they will finally be happy when they achieve a certain goal, buy a certain house, receive a certain promotion, or gain the recognition they believe they deserve. Yet when they finally arrive at that long-awaited moment, the feeling often fades faster than expected. A new desire appears. A new problem emerges. Another mountain stands on the horizon. This endless cycle has existed throughout human history. Long before smartphones, social media, and modern distractions, people struggled with the same questions. Why do we suffer? Why are we never satisfied for long? How can we remain peaceful in an unpredictable world? One of the most powerful answers comes from Stoicism. Stoicism is often misunderstood. Some people believe it teaches emotional suppression or indifference. Others think it encourages people to become cold and detached from life. In reality, Stoicism offers something very different. It provides a practical framework for living with greater peace, resilience, clarity, and purpose. At its core, Stoicism teaches that happiness does not depend on controlling the world around us. Instead, happiness comes from learning to govern ourselves. This idea may sound simple, but it has the power to transform an entire life. Think about how much energy people spend trying to control things that are beyond their influence. They worry about what others think. They obsess over outcomes they cannot guarantee. They become anxious about future events that may never happen. They replay past mistakes that cannot be changed. The Stoics observed this tendency thousands of years ago. One of the most influential Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, taught that some things are within our control and some things are not. Our opinions, actions, judgments, and responses belong to us. Other people's opinions, external events, reputation, wealth, and circumstances do not. Most suffering begins when we confuse these two categories. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm while trying to command the wind. No matter how loudly you shout, the storm will continue. The more you resist reality, the more exhausted you become. Now imagine accepting that you cannot control the wind. Instead of fighting the storm, you focus on steering your ship. The storm may still exist, but your experience changes completely. This is the foundation of Stoic happiness. Many people believe happiness comes from having favorable circumstances. Stoicism suggests something much more liberating. Happiness comes from developing a stable inner character that remains strong regardless of circumstances. Consider two individuals who lose their jobs. The first person sees the event as proof that life is unfair. They become consumed by fear, resentment, and self-pity. Their identity was tied entirely to their position, so losing it feels like losing themselves. The second person experiences disappointment as well. Stoicism does not deny human emotions. However, they understand that while the event is outside their control, their response remains within their control. They focus on learning, adapting, and moving forward. Both individuals faced the same event. Their suffering differed because of their interpretation. This principle appears repeatedly throughout life. Events themselves often have less power over us than the stories we tell ourselves about those events. A delayed flight becomes a disaster when we believe everything must go according to plan. A criticism becomes unbearable when we believe our worth depends on universal approval. A failure becomes devastating when we view mistakes as evidence that we are inadequate. Stoicism teaches us to examine these assumptions carefully. The Stoics understood that reality does not always align with our desires. People will disappoint us. Plans will fail. Health may decline. Opportunities may disappear. Loss is an unavoidable part of life. Many philosophies attempt to comfort us by promising certainty. Stoicism offers a different gift. It teaches us how to remain steady in uncertainty. This is where detachment becomes essential. Detachment does not mean avoiding love, ambition, friendship, or success. It means refusing to allow your happiness to depend entirely on them. Imagine holding a beautiful flower. Attachment grips the flower tightly, terrified of losing it. Detachment appreciates the flower fully, while understanding that one day it may fade. Which approach creates more peace? Most people assume attachment deepens enjoyment. In reality, excessive attachment often produces anxiety. The more desperately we cling to something, the more afraid we become of losing it. This fear can quietly poison our lives. People become afraid to take risks because they are attached to comfort. They stay in unhealthy situations because they are attached to familiarity. They constantly seek validation because they are attached to approval. Stoicism encourages a healthier relationship with life. Enjoy what you have. Be grateful for it. Care deeply about it. But never forget that everything external is temporary. This awareness may initially seem uncomfortable, yet it often produces profound freedom. When you accept the temporary nature of things, gratitude becomes easier. You stop taking people for granted. You stop assuming tomorrow is guaranteed. You become more present. You appreciate what exists today rather than constantly chasing what might exist someday. One of the most remarkable Stoic practices involves negative visualization. At first glance, this exercise seems pessimistic. In reality, it is deeply empowering. The practice involves occasionally imagining the loss of things you value. Not to create fear, not to create sadness, but to strengthen appreciation. Imagine waking up tomorrow without access to something you normally overlook. Your health, your home, your family, your ability to walk, see, or hear. Suddenly, ordinary life appears extraordinary. The Stoics believed that gratitude grows, and we stop assuming that our blessings are permanent. This mindset directly challenges the modern tendency toward endless dissatisfaction. Today, many people compare themselves constantly. They compare careers. They compare relationships. They compare appearances. They compare lifestyles. Comparison creates an endless race with no finish line. No matter how much you achieve, someone else appears to have more. Stoicism offers a way out. Instead of measuring success against others, measure it against your own values. Ask yourself simple questions. Did I act with integrity today? Did I show courage today? Did I respond wisely today? Did I become slightly better than I was yesterday? These questions create a form of success that no one can take away. External achievements may fluctuate. Character remains yours. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoics, ruled the Roman Empire while facing wars, political turmoil, personal loss, and immense responsibility. Despite possessing extraordinary power, he repeatedly reminded himself of life's impermanence. He understood something that many people miss. Status does not guarantee peace. Power does not guarantee happiness. Recognition does not guarantee fulfillment. Inner stability must be cultivated intentionally. This lesson remains just as relevant today. Many people spend years building external success while neglecting internal development. They strengthen their resumes, but not their resilience. They improve their finances, but not their emotional discipline. They pursue recognition, but ignore self-understanding. Then, when difficulties arise, they discover that external achievements cannot protect them from inner chaos. Stoicism encourages us to reverse this process. Build yourself first. Strengthen your character. Develop wisdom. Practice self-control. Cultivate gratitude. Learn to navigate adversity. These qualities become valuable in every situation. One of the most inspiring aspects of Stoicism is its emphasis on responsibility. Modern culture often encourages blame. Blame circumstances. Blame other people. Blame bad luck. While external factors certainly influence our lives, Stoicism asks a different question. What can you do right now? This question shifts attention away from helplessness and toward empowerment. Even in difficult situations, there is usually something within your control. Perhaps you cannot control the economy, but you can control your work ethic. Perhaps you cannot control someone's opinion, but you can control your character. Perhaps you cannot control what happened yesterday, but you can control what you do today. This perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. The Stoics believed that challenges reveal character. Anyone can remain calm when everything goes according to plan. True strength appears when life becomes difficult. Imagine a tree growing on a windy hillside. The constant resistance forces its roots deeper into the ground. Over time, the tree becomes stronger than one that grew under perfect conditions. Human beings often develop in a similar way. Many of our greatest strengths emerge through adversity. Patience develops when we encounter delays. Courage develops when we face fear. Resilience develops when we endure hardship. Wisdom develops when we learn from mistakes. Without challenges, many of these qualities would remain dormant. This does not mean we should seek suffering unnecessarily. It means we can choose how we interpret it. Every challenge contains two possibilities. It can make us bitter, or it can make us stronger. Stoicism encourages the second path. When people hear the word detachment, they sometimes imagine withdrawing from life. The Stoics advocated the opposite. Engage fully. Participate actively. Pursue meaningful goals. Love deeply. Contribute generously. Just do not tie your happiness exclusively to outcomes. A farmer can prepare the soil, plant seeds, water crops, and work diligently. Yet weather remains beyond control. The wise farmer focuses on effort rather than guarantees. Similarly, we can pursue our goals wholeheartedly while accepting uncertainty. This balance creates a unique kind of peace. You remain motivated without becoming enslaved by results. You remain committed without becoming consumed by anxiety. You continue moving forward regardless of immediate success or failure. Perhaps one of the greatest gifts Stoicism offers is freedom from the need for constant validation. Many people live according to expectations imposed by others. They seek approval from family, approval from friends, approval from coworkers, approval from strangers online. Their happiness rises and falls according to external opinions. This creates emotional instability. The Stoics understood that basing your self-worth on other people's judgments is dangerous because those judgments constantly change. Someone may praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. If your identity depends on their approval, your peace becomes fragile. Instead, Stoicism encourages developing an internal standard. Know your values. Live according to them. Let your conscience become your guide. When you respect yourself, external approval becomes less necessary. This does not eliminate criticism. It changes your relationship with it. Constructive feedback becomes useful information rather than a personal attack. Unfair criticism loses much of its power because your self-worth no longer depends upon universal acceptance. This inner freedom allows people to live more authentically. They stop performing. They stop pretending. They stop chasing impossible standards. They become more comfortable being themselves. And surprisingly, this authenticity often creates deeper relationships and greater fulfillment. The journey towards Stoic happiness is not about becoming perfect. It is about practicing. Every day presents opportunities to strengthen your mindset. Every challenge becomes a chance to apply wisdom. Every setback becomes an opportunity to develop resilience. The process never truly ends. Even the greatest Stoics viewed themselves as students. They understood that personal growth is a lifelong journey. Perhaps that is one of the most encouraging lessons of all. You do not need to master Stoicism overnight. You do not need perfect emotional control. You do not need complete detachment from every desire. You simply need to begin. One decision, one thought, one response at a time. Each moment offers a new opportunity to choose wisdom over impulse, courage over fear, gratitude over complaint, and peace over unnecessary suffering. That choice, repeated consistently, has the power to transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Part 2. As you continue exploring Stoicism, one realization becomes increasingly clear. Much of the unhappiness people experience comes not from reality itself, but from resistance to reality. This resistance often appears in subtle ways. We resist the fact that people are imperfect. We resist the fact that life is uncertain. We resist the fact that time moves forward. We resist the fact that loss is unavoidable. We resist circumstances that do not match our expectations. The more we fight these realities, the more exhausted we become. Imagine standing in a river and attempting to stop the current with your hands. The effort is endless. The water continues flowing regardless of your resistance. Life operates similarly. Stoicism teaches that peace begins when we stop demanding that reality become different, and instead learn how to work skillfully with what already exists. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. It is seeing things as they are rather than as we wish they were. Only when we see clearly can we respond wisely. Many people believe happiness requires perfect conditions. They wait for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right relationship, the right amount of money, the right circumstances. Years pass while they remain trapped in preparation mode, convinced that happiness exists somewhere beyond the horizon. Stoicism challenges this belief directly. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens. The past exists as memory. The future exists as possibility. But this moment is real. This moment is where choices are made. This moment is where character is built. This moment is where peace can be found. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself to focus on the task directly in front of him. Not next week. Not next year. Not some imagined future. Today. There is tremendous power in this mindset. When people become overwhelmed, they often attempt to carry the weight of an entire future at once. They worry about problems that have not happened. They create scenarios that may never exist. Their minds become crowded with uncertainty. Stoicism invites us to return to what is immediately available. What can you do right now? What decision can you make today? What action can you take in this moment? These questions simplify life. They reduce anxiety. They transform overwhelming challenges into manageable steps. Think about climbing a mountain. If you stand at the base and focus only on the distant peak, the journey may feel impossible. But if you focus on the next step, and then the next one after that, progress becomes achievable. Life often works the same way. Happiness is rarely found by reaching a destination. It is found by learning how to walk the path. Another essential lesson within Stoicism is the understanding that discomfort is not always the enemy. Modern society frequently promotes comfort as the ultimate goal. People seek convenience. They seek ease. They seek immediate gratification. While comfort has its place, an excessive attachment to comfort can weaken us. Growth often occurs outside our comfort zones. Strength develops through challenge. Confidence develops through action. Wisdom develops through experience. A person who avoids every difficulty may avoid growth as well. The Stoics understood this deeply. They sometimes practiced voluntary discomfort, not because suffering was desirable, but because it reminded them that they were capable of handling more than they imagined. They might sleep on a hard surface occasionally, wear simple clothing, eat basic meals. The purpose was not punishment. The purpose was freedom. When you realize that your happiness does not depend on luxury, fear begins to lose its grip. You become less anxious about losing comfort because you know you can adapt. This adaptability creates confidence, and confidence creates peace. Many people underestimate their own resilience. They assume they will break under pressure. They assume they cannot survive disappointment. They assume they cannot recover from failure. Yet history repeatedly shows that human beings possess extraordinary strength. People survive heartbreak. They recover from loss. They rebuild after setbacks. They adapt to circumstances they once thought impossible. Often, the greatest obstacle is not the challenge itself. It is the belief that the challenge cannot be overcome. Stoicism helps replace that belief with something stronger. Trust in your ability to respond. You may not control every event, but you can develop the capacity to face events wisely. This distinction changes everything. Instead of seeking a life without difficulty, you begin building a self capable of handling difficulty. That approach creates lasting confidence because it does not depend on circumstances. One of the most liberating Stoic ideas involves recognizing how little we truly need to live a meaningful life. Many people spend years accumulating possessions, status symbols, and achievements, believing each new acquisition will finally provide lasting satisfaction. Yet satisfaction remains temporary. A new desire emerges. A new comparison appears. Another goal replaces the previous one. This cycle can continue indefinitely. The Stoics observed that desires often multiply faster than fulfillment. The solution was not to eliminate ambition. The solution was to become more intentional. Ask yourself what truly matters. What contributes to a meaningful life? What remains valuable even when external circumstances change? The answers often surprise people. Meaningful relationships, personal growth, integrity, service, wisdom, purpose, gratitude. These things require far less than most people imagine. In fact, some of the happiest individuals throughout history possessed very little compared to modern standards. Their happiness came not from abundance, but from perspective. Perspective is one of the most powerful tools available to us. The same circumstance can appear completely different depending on how we view it. Rain ruins one person's plans and nourishes another person's crops. A delay frustrates one traveler and protects another from danger. A setback discourages one individual and motivates another to grow. The event may remain identical. The interpretation changes. Stoicism encourages us to examine our interpretations carefully. When something difficult happens, ask yourself, is this event truly as terrible as I believe? Am I adding unnecessary suffering through my assumptions? What opportunity for growth exists here? These questions create space between stimulus and response. Within that space lies freedom. Without that space, people react automatically. They become controlled by anger, fear, frustration, and impulse. Stoicism helps restore conscious choice. This ability becomes especially valuable during emotional moments. Contrary to popular misconceptions, Stoicism does not teach emotional numbness. Stoics experienced grief. They experienced disappointment. They experienced sadness. They experienced joy. The goal was not to eliminate emotions. The goal was to avoid becoming enslaved by them. Emotions provide information. They do not always provide wisdom. For example, fear may warn us of danger. But fear can also exaggerate threats. Anger may highlight injustice. But anger can also cloud judgment. The Stoic approach involves acknowledging emotions without allowing them to dictate behavior. Feel the emotion. Observe it. Understand it. Then choose your response deliberately. This practice requires patience. It requires self-awareness. It requires discipline. Yet over time, it creates remarkable emotional stability. You stop being tossed around by every passing feeling. You become steadier, calmer, more intentional. This inner stability contributes enormously to happiness. Another important Stoic lesson concerns mortality. Many people avoid thinking about death. The topic feels uncomfortable. Yet the Stoics believed that remembering mortality actually enhances life. When we forget that life is temporary, we begin acting as if time is unlimited. We postpone important conversations. We delay meaningful goals. We assume opportunities will always exist. We take people for granted. Awareness of mortality changes this perspective. It reminds us that each day possesses value. Each conversation matters. Each opportunity is precious. Each moment deserves attention. Far from creating despair, this awareness often creates gratitude. Imagine receiving a reminder that your time is limited. Would you spend the day consumed by trivial arguments? Would you waste energy seeking approval from strangers? Would you postpone pursuing what truly matters? Probably not. You would likely focus on what is genuinely important. The Stoics sought to maintain this perspective regularly. Not to become fearful, but to become fully alive. When you understand that life is finite, ordinary moments become extraordinary. A conversation with a loved one, a walk in nature, a sunrise, a shared meal. Simple experiences gain significance. Detachment plays a crucial role here as well. Many people mistakenly believe happiness comes from possessing life permanently. Stoicism teaches happiness comes from appreciating life while it exists. Everything changes. Everything evolves. Everything eventually ends. Fighting this reality creates suffering. Accepting it creates peace. This acceptance allows us to love more freely. When we stop trying to own experiences, we begin appreciating them. When we stop trying to freeze time, we start living fully within it. This is one of the deepest forms of happiness available. Not excitement, not temporary pleasure, but quiet contentment, a steady appreciation for existence itself. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of serving others. While Stoicism focuses heavily on inner development, it does not encourage selfishness. Human beings are social creatures. We thrive through connection. We find meaning through contribution. Helping others often creates a deeper sense of fulfillment than pursuing personal gain alone. Think about moments that brought genuine satisfaction. Many likely involved kindness, support, generosity, encouragement, service. These experiences remind us that happiness grows when shared. Stoicism encourages becoming the kind of person who contributes positively to the world regardless of circumstances. Even during difficult times, you can choose kindness. Even during challenges, you can choose integrity. Even during uncertainty, you can choose compassion. These choices strengthen character while improving the lives of others. This creates a powerful cycle. The more you live according to your values, the more self-respect you develop. The more self-respect you develop, the less dependent you become on external validation. The less dependent you become on external validation, the greater your freedom. And greater freedom often leads to greater happiness. Perhaps the most inspiring aspect of Stoicism is its accessibility. You do not need wealth to practice it. You do not need special credentials. You do not need perfect circumstances. You can begin exactly where you are. Right now, the principles remain available regardless of age, background, education, or status. Every day provides opportunities to practice. A frustrating conversation becomes an opportunity for patience. A setback becomes an opportunity for resilience. A criticism becomes an opportunity for humility. A success becomes an opportunity for gratitude. Life itself becomes the training ground. Over time, small improvements accumulate. A calmer response today. A wiser decision tomorrow. A more grateful attitude next week. Months and years pass. Gradually, a different person emerges. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. Not because uncertainty disappeared, but because your relationship with uncertainty changed. Not because challenges ended, but because you learned how to face them with courage. This transformation is available to anyone willing to practice. The journey does not require perfection. Even the ancient Stoics made mistakes. They struggled. They learned. They improved. The goal was never perfection. The goal was progress. This perspective removes unnecessary pressure. You do not have to become a flawless philosopher. You simply need to move in the right direction. A little more awareness. A little more patience. A little more gratitude. A little more courage. These small improvements create significant change over time. Eventually, you begin noticing something remarkable. The things that once disturbed you lose their power. The opinions of others matter less. Unexpected setbacks feel more manageable. Temporary disappointments no longer define entire days. Fear begins to shrink. Confidence begins to grow. Peace becomes more frequent. Not because life is perfect, because your perspective has evolved. And perhaps that is the ultimate lesson of Stoicism. Happiness is not hidden somewhere in the future. It is not waiting behind a promotion, a purchase, or a perfect circumstance. It is cultivated within. Through wisdom, through gratitude, through resilience, through acceptance, through detachment from what cannot be controlled. The world will continue changing. Challenges will continue appearing. Uncertainty will remain part of life. Yet within all of that, you can build something stable. A peaceful mind, a strong character, a grateful heart, a resilient spirit. These qualities cannot guarantee a perfect life, but they can help create something far more valuable. The ability to remain grounded, hopeful, and fulfilled regardless of what life brings. That is the promise of Stoicism. Not a life without difficulty, but a life where difficulty no longer has the power to steal your peace. And in a world filled with uncertainty, that may be one of the greatest forms of happiness a person can ever discover.